How's everybody doing? I'd like to welcome everybody to a brand new episode of the Melanated Convo podcast. If this is your first time listening to the show, basically what we do here is have interesting conversations about different things that go on in the Black community, whether it's our relationships, whether it's entertainment, whether it's religion, whether it's politics. We try to delve into all these different topics just to give you guys a well-rounded show. Also, on the show, what we like to do is talk about Black businesses. I have what's called a Black Business Spotlight, where I grab a couple businesses that I've noticed and I try my best to highlight those businesses with everything going on in our country. A lot of turmoil, a lot of unrest going on. But at the end of the day, we're going to come out of this. And as Black people, we still going to need to work together. Like our business acumen and supporting one another, that's always going to be high on my list. The Black dollar doesn't circulate in our neighborhood more than one or two times, I think. So I think it's important for us to support people that look like us. And we spend a lot of money every year, family. I repeat, we spend a lot of money every year. So if we could try to, try our best to spend that money with our people, I think that's the best way to do it. Also on the show, normally I like to have news stories where I talk a little bit about different things going on in the news that I find interesting. However, today, and we do the news stories, and typically I have a topic. So we go Black businesses, news stories. Then I have a particular topic that I discuss for 15, 20 minutes. However, today I have a special guest on the line with me. So instead of doing the news stories, I'm going to just talk to my brother. I have my brother on the line with me who I met maybe 2 or 3 years ago. I interviewed him for my website, melanatedfathersofamerica.com. If you haven't been there lately, check it out, where I would interview fathers and men who didn't have kids, just talking to them about fatherhood and their father and things like that. I met the brother around that time. And since then, we forged a bond and we communicate. We've worked with each other on a lot of different things. So I'm excited to introduce to the Melanated Convo podcast family, my boy Jermaine Morris. How you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm proud of what you birthed here. I'm proud of the Melanated Convo.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And you have a lot to do with that. Just so the audience knows, when I first started interviewing and going through the process, I didn't know Jermaine much, but when I sat down and talked to him, he had a lot of insight on what I was attempting to do. So he gave me a lot of good game about what direction to go in, how to kind of pace my interview. So it really helped me evolve. So for that, brother, I'm appreciative.
Oh, man, I was just talking. But I'm definitely watching how the website has grown and the podcast and all the events and stuff. Like I said, I'm proud of what you created.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Now, before we get started, everybody, if you're watching this on YouTube, please hit the like button. Please hit the like button, hit the share button as well. If you have not subscribed to Melanated Fathers TV, that is my YouTube channel, Melanated Fathers TV. If you have not subscribed, please do that right now as well. If you're watching this clip on Facebook, share it, like it, talk about it, so we can keep this thing popping. Now, get going real quick. I want to talk about my Black businesses. Got a couple. I'm going to talk about the same businesses I talked about last week because I'm excited about these brothers. And, I've actually been able to try some of these products, so I'm excited. Now, first business, wrapsnacks.com. I repeat, wrapsnacks.com. I came across these chips a couple years ago. So this is a snack brand that has chips. They also have noodles. Now, what intrigued me by it is on the cover of the chips, you have different hip-hop characters, whether it be Cardi B, Lil Yachty, Lil Boosie. I didn't know what to make of it at first. I didn't know if this was like a white company, kind of using our likeness. But once I found out that it's a Black company owned by a brother named James Lindsay, who's been at this for several years, it intrigued me even more. And maybe 2 weeks ago, they began selling the chips in the store around the corner. So they have several different flavors. They have like cheddar barbecue. They have like a backyard barbecue flavor, all these different flavors. And this is the real thing, family. I've tried maybe 4 different flavors of these chips. And like I was mentioning earlier, Black folks, we spend a lot of money on everything, including snacks. So we like Doritos, we like the barbecue chips. Look, family, these chips is some of the best chips I've ever tasted. Like, that's real chalk. I had some of these little boopsies. They was called the little boopsies, hot flamers. Man, when I tell you, hot Cheetos ain't got nothing on these chips, right? So it may not be available in like a local store near you, which is fine. If you go to rapsnacks.net, that's rapsnacks.net, you can actually find where the local store is in your area and do what I did. You can order a bundle for yourself. You can get like 20, you can get 18 bags for $24. You know what I mean? And again, all of us like hot Cheetos. Everywhere you go in our community, you're going to see some type of potato chip there. This is a way to kind of funnel that money back into our society, back into our community by supporting somebody that looks like you. So go to rapsnacks.net. Another cool thing about the chips, there's a QR code on the back of each bag of chips. You scan that code, you get exclusive content, whether it be a new hip hop song, whether it be a discount on something that they're offering, right? So me being such a big fan and lover of hip hop, it just intrigued me. When you go to the website, it's almost like you're looking at a record label, you know what I mean? But they selling chips. Also, what I just learned, they also sell noodles also. They have Rap Snack noodles, right? And again, growing up in our communities, we probably buy noodles and eat noodles more than or as much as anybody else in this country, right? So this is a way to support a noodle company of somebody that looks like you. And again, the flavors are directed towards our culture. So they got Creole roast beef noodles and all this kind of stuff. I want to try some of those too. Now on the noodles, you'll find the same thing. E40 has some of the noodles where his face is on it. Master P has some of the noodles where his face is on it. So I just appreciate the fact that this guy is embracing our culture while attempting to sell us something that we all use anyway, right? So go to rapsnacks.net, check out the bags of chips, see if you have it in your area. If not, I say order some, family. Order some. Let's support this brother's business. He just revamped the business. A couple of years ago, he stopped for one reason or another, but now he revamped it. It's going real good for him. So let's keep that thing going. Like my boy Zoe Williams say, let's cash mop this brother so he can keep his business popping. That is rapsnacks.net. Go there today. Now, the next business. A brother named Jerry Brown reached out to me on my Instagram page maybe a week ago. And he just said, Harrison, can you share my flyer for my business on your Instagram page? I'm like, you know what? That's what I do anyway. So I took a look at the brother business. He has a clothing line, family. He has a clothing line called Fatherhood Over Everything Apparel. That's Fatherhood Over Everything Apparel. He has nice shirts. He has sweaters. He has hats on the website. So he's pushing fatherhood to the 10th degree, and I love it. The website, if you want to buy the clothes or even take a look at it, it would be manupworldwide.com. Again, that is manupworldwide.com. If you put in the code Proud Fathers, you can get 10% off. Also, he has a bundle right now where you can get a mask and a shirt that says Essential Father, because right now you have to be an essential worker to work. So he's using a play on words, but I love it. He's gaining momentum. If you go to his website, manupworldwide.com, you'll see that he's been able to network with a few celebrities already and have them wearing his clothes. So, man, look, we love being fly. We love looking nice. We buy a lot of clothes from people outside of our community. Let's start supporting. Now, I'm not saying every shirt in your closet got to be by a black designer. I get it. You're going to go shopping. You're going to see some stuff that you like. But how about half of them? You know what I mean? How about half of them, a quarter of them? Start somewhere. You know what I mean? And like I always say, I'm not going to shop with a black business just because you're black. The services you're providing, whatever you're giving me, has to be up to par with anywhere else I can get that. You know what I mean? If your clothes ain't fly, I'm not going to wear them just because you're black. So I appreciate this brother. The clothes look nice. The sweaters look nice. It's nice and sturdy looking. So go support the brother. And again, you get 10% off if you put in the code Proud Father. So that would be manupworldwide.com, manupworldwide.com. Tell somebody you know. You feel me? Now, that is it for the two businesses. All right, now on to my brother Jermaine Morris, because a couple weeks ago, Jermaine came to my office and we were having a conversation about some things that he wanted to do. And like always, the brother has a great perspective. So we began talking about what's going on in the world. We began talking about how we view what's transpiring in our face right now. And as I'm sitting there, I'm thinking, okay, I'm gonna use some of this for my show. But I was like, you know what? Instead of using it for my show and stealing from the brother, I could just bring him on and have him say it himself. You feel me? So I'm gonna go over some questions I got for you, Jermaine. We'll have a good conversation, bro. But I want you to just, give us your perspective on these things so the family can learn from you. Now, first thing I want to talk about. So, with everything that we're seeing right now, and again, because of how we view things, for a while now, we have been focusing on the injustices that are done against our people. It seems like now everybody's kind of coming on board. People who may have not cared about Black injustice, Black and non-Black people, now it seems like they care. Now it seems like they want to do away with the subtle pieces of racism that has littered our country for all these years, right? So when we look at the George Floyd situation and how that transpired, when you first seen that, because it happens a lot to the point where you're kind of desensitized. Now, of course, the guy had his knee on his neck and his demeanor was real eerie, like how he was just sitting there with his knee on his neck. The visual of that was kind of disturbing. But ultimately, what's your take on everything you've seen involving that situation?
I guess my take on the actual situation itself,
Yeah.
I think kind of like most people, is disturbing as it was. It almost feels like I've seen this movie before.
Mm-hmm.
That there'll be video footage coming out. It looks horrific in the scene that's there. But then the first thing is, well, we need to investigate more to see what led up to it. And then it seems like the immediate campaign has to go on putting the person who's no longer here's character, life, and decisions on trial. Mm-hmm. So the first thing they go to is, he was arrested for this, or so-and-so had this in their system, or such and such, such and such. That's usually the playbook. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of what I was expecting to see. But then when it was just like nothing was happening, there was no repercussions. Part of me was just like, you get cynical after a while. Mm-hmm. And it's not like it's George Floyd. If it was the George Floyd situation as an isolated case, that might be one thing, but it was in a cluster coming off of Arbery. Yeah. And looped up in there, and right after, or like right at the same period, was the Breonna Taylor stuff, and there's a bunch of cases from the top of the year, the back of the year that hadn't been addressed. Like, it just really feels like this is just a theme. Mm. And so when it came to the George Floyd thing, I could see why people had enough.
Mm. Understandable. Now, as far as, because there's been a lot of protests, there's been a lot of rioting, a lot of looting. We've seen that before, right? But yeah. Tell me, looking at this situation, as far as how we responded, how do you think how we responded affected the cops being charged? There, because there's some changes being made, even though they may be subtle, even though they may just be placating us right now. I mean, we still got to wait for the cop to end up going to jail. But how do you think we responded as a people to this incident?
So I don't think it's us as much as a combination of things. Like, I think we responded the same to this as we do to, you can pick any other incident. I think where we're at is because of the quarantining that's been going on all year, and everybody being home, people off work, nothing, no distractions, no sports on, no anything. So I don't think it was just our response. I think it was a huge number of non-Black people who responded the same. And so it's not something that you can just say, oh, these are how they're reacting. No, it's how they are reacting. I've been out to, I remember I went to one protest, and it was probably 80% white audience that was protesting. Mm. You know what I mean? And so I think across the nation, I think it was the first time where all 50 states and in 18 countries, they were protesting at the same time. Mm. It was a global effect. And so I think that partly had to do with how we reacted, but I think a big part of it is that it just partially a factor because there wasn't other things going on to distract people, but everybody's tired of this. Mm. Everybody's tired of seeing this.
Got it. So you agree that, if we're going to affect change in this country, I mean, we're only 13% or something like that. If we're really going to affect change, we're going to need other races of people to step in and help to a degree.
Yeah. So when it comes to policy changes and the greater population kind of needs to buy in on what you want changed. So when you have any type of movement, if you go back, the Immigration Act, you go back to the Civil Rights Act, whatever, there was a lot of white people who were like, we're tired of this. The same way when women were pushing for their needs, there were men who voted. Like there's things that this old phrase, but we are in this together. Like it's not going to be just an isolated group that pushes everything forward. We're going to require the other groups involved. I think that when we start talking about getting, policy changed, a big thing is, everybody's like, what's the ask? What is it you want? Because that will make it easier for these other groups to like, okay, we're rocking with you, but to do what? Because I think where we're at is we've got a good window and everybody's listening, and it's just be on us to capitalize while there's this crack in the door. Well, everybody's looking and the door is open and there's an opportunity to get some stuff through that's more than symbolic practices of, folks hitting the Wakanda forever and folks saying, we on board with you. That's cool in practice, but America's a nation of laws. So the practice is cool, but we need to know what the ask is on policy.
Got it.
And I think that's going to be real interesting to see what comes out of all this in that respect.
Okay. Now, this COVID-19 thing hit us hard, right? It debilitated us, meaning the streets were empty. Like I'm taking pictures of the streets. I'm driving at 12 noon and nobody did. This is weird, man, right? My kid right? So my kid can't go to school. If you watch CNN, you'll go crazy because they just hitting you with the numbers and hitting you with the fear, right? So, but me, knowing how this country operates, a part of me wants to say, I need to wear a mask, stay 6 feet away from people. You can give me something that can kill me and attack my immune system. I don't know if I'm pre-diabetic or I don't know, you know what I mean? I don't know what's going on in my body. This can hurt me. I can get it and give it to my sick aunt. Like a part of me is scared, right? Like I'm being extremely cautious. The other part of me is like, man, this is America. 30 years from now, we can find out they made this up or they made it in a lab or something. You know what I mean? So I have a difficult time just believing what they tell me. I don't trust America like that. How have you felt about the COVID-19 thing? Like the seriousness of it, the effect that it's having on us?
So a couple things. So one, when all this stuff was coming out and they were kind of addressing what they believed it to be, it's like, you got a compromised immune system. If you've already got, you got bad asthma, if you got, respiratory stuff, you're high risk. Diabetes, high risk, hypertension, high risk, high blood pressure, high risk. Okay, so, average Black folks in America, it's kind of the high risk. So it was like, okay, wear the mask. I quarantined like folks, I was only leaving for necessities. If I had to go to the grocery store or something specific, but aside from that, I kept to myself. But I really made it a campaign to really work on making sure my immune system was good. Because I think that's something that was really, really downplayed and still is. If you're talking about something that can attack your immune system, or if you have a compromised immune system, you're higher risk, then I would think the full campaign should be to making sure that your immune system is as strong as it can be. I remember going to the grocery store and, toilet paper wiped out, wiped out. With all the grapefruits and oranges and lemons piled up, ain't nobody trying to get this vitamin C. Okay. Ain't y'all trying to mess with this turmeric? Okay. So, my focus was let me start, working out a little bit more while I'm home, like a lot of people. Well, I think most people went one way or the other. They either were getting in better shape or they gained the pandemic pounds. I did both. The beginning gained the pandemic pounds, then I started working out. And then just like, let me get my wind up, get my strong lungs, strong, immune system. And that really became my focus. Like I'm a believer in controlling what you can control. And policies that are going on out there, stuff when they're deciding this, that, and the third, and that time and that space, that's not something I have control over. But I can control how well I take care of myself. And if this is something that's can affecting your immune system, well, that's something I have control over. That's something that I can work on to get me in a better position. So that's kind of where I took it. I don't put too much on if they're telling me the truth on the details, or if they're telling me a bold-faced lie. I can't all of a sudden open up the schools and the stores. So it kind of doesn't matter in that space.
Okay.
So
yeah.
I was like, let me just focus on, I did a couple things. Let me focus on make sure my health is better. I was a non-essential, so there was no work for what I was doing before. So I started looking at what can I start doing now, because I don't know how long this is going to last. So I started developing things that I could do while I was here, so I could still be okay. You know, they said closing down 2020. You know, when we started this, there wasn't these big old stimulus stuff, whatever. You just got unemployment when this jumped off. And I was like, that ain't gonna make it. So I started putting stuff into place, and so I just focused on me. I wrote, well, inward, but you know, long story longer. I just really started focusing on me.
Got it. Now, because you know, I've been telling people, of course, as a community, we have problems currently. Like even before all this COVID-19, there's so many things like in-house that we need to deal with. What do you think we need to do, like coming out of the COVID-19 thing? Because you just mentioned some of the things you've done to kind of, you know, thinking about yourself, which I think is smart. Like go inside and kind of see how can I improve, because you can't change stuff going on around you. What do you think we need to do as a community to kind of come out of this thing, if possible, like stronger or better or smarter than we were before it started?
Well, I would hope. Now, granted, there's so much stuff going on, and it takes away from this, but hopefully, we've all complained for years about the rat race. We've all complained for years about how many hours we're away from our homes, that we never see our kids, that we don't have time to talk to friends. Everybody is you know, sleep deprived and dehydrated, and you know, all that stuff that in the normal work week. Well, in this downtime, I would have liked to hope that people rested. I think that people kind of recharge their battery. Now, granted, when all the protesting and marching, all that stuff, that kind of changed people's focus. But I'd like to hope that people were a little more centered in this. You know, you got to be with your kids. You got to be with your wife. You got to be with your husband. You know, Zoom stock is through the roof because folks are communicating so consistently still. So I would, in that respect, I would think people got a little more centered. For us coming out of the community, this was finally a time where you didn't have to punch a clock for a lot of us. So hopefully there was some development into something. Like there's going to be a lot of businesses that do not exist after this is over, or they've now found that they can do things differently. There won't be 30 people in the office anymore. There may be 12. They don't need you 40 hours a week anymore. They figured out they can get it done in 22. There's not going to be, you know, you're hearing chains, hundreds of stores closing nationwide. You know, there's going to be a lot of shift and change. So I would like to hope that people are planning, not just in the moment, thinking about what's next, thinking about, you know, I'm a firm believer, start where you are with what you have. You know, assess where you are, establish where you want to go, and then take the steps to bridge the gap to get there. So I would like to hope that some of that's been going on.
Definitely. Now, so throughout all of this, President Trump, like since he got into office, he's been really polarizing through this whole thing. Like he says a lot of stupid things, puts his foot in his mouth a lot. He's just like a gangster, you know what I mean?
Yeah, they say he's running the nation like Death Row Records. Yeah.
You're damn right. He is. And he's extremely unapologetic as well, right? But a lot of people are telling me, okay, Trump, they're watching how he's handling the COVID thing, and they're disappointed, and they're saying, hey, this is why you need to vote. This is why you need to get this guy out of here. So and I see people pushing that narrative, hey, it's going to be time to vote. If y'all marching, but if y'all not going to vote when it's time to vote, then you marching for nothing. And I'm like, whoa. Who do we have to vote for, right? So looking at Biden being his running mate and his history and everything, how do you approach the voting aspect from a presidential perspective?
Okay, so with the exception of a national issue like this is not common. You know, a pandemic as well as, protesting in 50 states simultaneously. Like there's not a lot of things that hit a president's door that affects everybody at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to voting, your local government is key. Who your councilmen are, who your mayor is, laws in your state, who you elected governor. Those things are the ones that really, really affect you. So the Trump administration is a bit of an anomaly. Mm-hmm. So when you're talking about who to vote for, do I think that the situation would be better under Hillary? No, not really. Like had Trump not been elected, I think Trump speaks to his base. I think Trump speaks to the base of people. I don't think you'd have got the money out of Hillary that we got out of Trump. So he kind of understands, just throw some checks at him. Mm-hmm. And they'll be all right. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's why when things are unrested, he said, there's another stimulus coming and it's going to be big, He's like, throw some money at him. It's America. Give him a little cash. Right. So I don't know if Hillary would have been a better job prior. And then I don't have this faith in Biden moving forward. I think that voting is necessary and it has its place. I think lobbying is huge. I think that what it is that you need and putting that lean on who your elected officials are, because I could tell you, certain parties favor more to things, but like you take when Obama was elected, Obama was against gay marriage when he was elected.
He was.
But more laws got passed for the LGBT community under his watch than any other president.
Very true.
So even though the person who's in there may not see your views, you put the lean on them with the power behind it, and you can get what you want. So, when it comes to voting, like I said, it's a weird time. You talk about vote your interest. I don't even know Biden's stance on things. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I don't know his stance on businesses or education, or I've heard him talk several times, but at no point was he actually saying something. So I don't even know. And I think they're talking about him running with Kamala Harris. I think they're talking about running with. So I don't know. Vote your party. Like a lot of people are independents. They're not even Republicans or Democrats. They're independents, and you're just voting your interests. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if that answers your question.
No, it does. It does definitely. Now,
really vote your interests, and the main concern is holding the elected officials accountable when you vote them in. Mm-hmm. And that takes organization. That takes knowing what your ask is. That takes being consistent with the pressure to making sure you can get the things promised to you done.
Definitely. Now, to switch reels here just a little bit, when you came to the office, we had a conversation about racism and how at this point in 2020, how much does the systematic structures of racism affect our everyday lives compared to now and in the past? And you gave me some percentages on what you felt was the level of us being affected today, opposed to us not holding ourselves accountable, us not figuring out, okay, this is a system that has that's created disadvantages, but I know it now. So at this point, I should move differently. So give me a little bit more information about what you were saying as far as the percentages are concerned.
I remember the conversation. I don't remember the percentage. So, but I get to talk it in a moment. But I do know, because I think it was coming off of the Candace Owens stuff.
Yes,
she was talking about how none of these problems are racist issues. Mm, all of these issues are specific to the thing. Mm-hmm. And I know for a lot of us, okay, so I remember what we're talking about. So it really goes back to differences of policy and practice. So whenever you try to tell somebody who does not believe in systemic racism, who says it does not exist, it's over. A lot of them, their argument is policy. Like there were specific policies put in place to hinder, harm, and just, in some cases, destroy us. So when you start talking about, well, what's systemic? Systemic, slavery was systemic. Sanctioned, it was legal, like you could do it all day, every day. So like, okay, well, slavery's over. Okay, well, Black Code, Jim Crow laws, specifically for Black people, that's systemic. Okay, well, what else? Redlining. You can't live here. You only live here. That's systemic. Can't vote. That's systemic. So if you ask some people, they'll tell you, well, show me the law that's still on the books that is keeping Black people out of position. And that's their argument to saying that you can't point to a law, a policy that singles out Black people. The issue is that some of the policies got removed, but the practice is still the same. So you were treating somebody a certain way and it was okay. Now you can't do that anymore, but nothing changed within the structure and the confines of the system. So that's where when we go now for stuff, there needs to be some policies to offset these still existing practices. So, and people are like, oh, that stuff was a long time ago. Okay, well, you go the Civil Rights Act, all that stuff in the 60s. And okay, well, that's still the 60s. That's still a long time ago. Then you look at the systemic practice of breaking up families in the late 60s and the 70s under Lyndon B. Johnson. Okay, well, that was still the 70s. Then you look at Ronald Reagan, the Iran-Contra situation, influx of crack cocaine in the Black community in the 80s. Oh, yeah, but that was the 80s. Then you look at the crime bill, mass incarceration, in the Clinton administration in the 90s. Oh, well, that was the 90s, though. Then you but the issue is that, so when you take the 80s and the 90s, it didn't single out Black people by policy. It just did by practice. The crime bill is that you got crack penalties were 3 times more than cocaine.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's in the dope game, but crack is a derivative of cocaine. It's a watered down version of coke. But if you got caught with crack, you got 3 times the sentencing. Why? Because who sells and uses crack cocaine versus who sells and uses cocaine? So those are things that where you'll say there's a practice that's not a straight policy. There needs to be some things that that's what we're talking about, offsetting. How much of the stuff that we have to deal with now are systemic versus practice? I think that we do have to be real about, we do make some bad decisions. That we have to look at, there are some things that put in place to make the battle more uphill. There are some things that were in place and that still happen, that tie our shoelaces together. But we do have to be honest within our community that there are some things that we need to do better. And I don't think that these things are mutually exclusive. I can say we need to work on communication and conflict resolution with each other better, but that does not change the fact that when they defund departments in the education system, they start with our kids. I can sit there and say, okay, well, maybe there's some policies that help put this in place through our family structure. We need to work a little bit better about keeping some of our families tight. But that doesn't mean that there's not an issue with the way that over-policing to a point of almost a military presence in our community happens. Like, these are things that it's not either or. So I think that there's some stuff that we need to work on if we're being real. But we are getting help in our problems. Like, it's not like we're just, everything that's going on that is solely us, any more than some of the stuff going on with us is solely them. So I think that when we have to have a real honest in-house conversation and then put some stuff in place for this external help to get into a problem.
That makes complete sense. And, I knew you were going to break it down that way, but it makes complete sense, bro. I think sometimes people on the outside of our community, even some Black folks who criticize us, it's almost like they start with the accountability piece.
Yes.
Opposed to breaking down what has actually happened to us, which, some people have the wherewithal to wiggle within this system and not get caught up in it. But I think a lot of people don't. You know what I mean? So it's important, I think, that we understand both sides. That's why I think you broke down history. That's why I think history is so important, because if you learn history, it can help you contextualize what you're looking at today. You know what I mean?
I think that's huge. And I've always said, I think if the United States taught proper U.S. history, there would be a lot better relations within this country. Because the way that our education system is set up now, you can make it all the way from kindergarten and graduate high school and have no idea these things have happened when it pertains to how this nation has treated Black people.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not a question. Well, we'll say that, oh, that's the privilege you have that you didn't have to know. But if somebody's 35 years old, they're like, okay, well, I've never heard of Tulsa. I've never heard of Black Wall Street. I've never heard of, all the Jim Crow. They may have heard of Jim Crow, but they don't actually know what Jim Crow means.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people who are like, when they equate slavery, they equate, okay, well, we took these people from here and then we made them work in the fields for free. There are people who honestly make a connection between enslaved Africans in chattel slavery to migrant workers, Hispanic migrant workers in the field.
Mm.
Look, okay, well, Mexicans are working for 12, 14 hours a day for next to nothing. Y'all just did it for free. Like, and there's a lot of people there, when they put the two together, they think that these things are really, really close to each other.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas because they didn't hear about how and lynched in the public square.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't learn about buck breaking.
Mm-hmm.
They've heard of the breeding farms, how with the things, the horrific things that have happened to us as a people, and so if you've never been taught it, when somebody says it to you and you're 37, you don't make the connection. Oh, y'all are just making excuses. How am I 45 and I've never heard of this before? And the problem is because I graduated in California. I don't know where you graduated high school from, but American history was U.S. history was mandatory, world history was mandatory, and American government was mandatory to get a high school diploma where I went to school.
Mm-hmm.
No, those things were not covered when I graduated high school.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? So there can be people who, it's easy to put the label on, well, you have the privilege of not having to know. But I think that we do the nation as a whole a disservice when we don't teach the history accurately. And I get it. You don't want to talk about the ugly sides and no one wants to say, okay, well, this happened in 1964. That was my mom or dad, or that was my grandma or grandpa. There's a lot of people that don't want to make that connection. Mm-hmm. But I think things would run better if a U.S. history was taught accurately and everybody knew everybody put their chips on the table, and then it would make it easier to relate and understand one another better.
Mm. Okay. Now, something else I want to touch on just real quickly and kind of get your take on it. So we're speaking about what we need to do as a people. Yeah. We're speaking about some of the policies that have been keeping us back to a degree. And we also need to acknowledge the fact that in the entertainment world, in the sports world, they deal with the same type of thing as far as the white power structure to a degree, almost controlling everything, right? Yeah. Now, the NBA season is about to restart. And for the first time that I can recall, there are NBA players, Kyrie Irving and others, saying, hey, look, if we restart this season, it's going to be a distraction. So we need to focus on the injustices that have been happening to Black people.
Yeah. Huh? Keep your foot on their neck.
Right. And Kyrie even went as far as to say he spoke to a couple of teammates and said, you know what? Us starting our own league may not even be that bad, right? Which I wanted to bring that up because I've even never heard an NBA player utter this, right? So what's your take on the possibility of us starting our own league, one? And do you think if sports restarts on the 31st of July, it'll be a distraction to the point where people who cared about the struggle in the movement, instead of going to that march, they're going to stay on the couch and watch the game. You know what I mean?
So I agree with Kyrie's. Here's a problem what I don't like. Kyrie's going to get discredited because of his injury. So a lot of people are like, you wasn't going to play anyway. Mm-hmm. So you saying we should sit out doesn't really matter because you wasn't lacing them up. Mm-hmm. Take the validity out of what he was saying. For us, for a league that, Black people make up, 80% of the NBA?
Yeah.
And with Michael Jordan is the only, I think, representation of real percentage ownership. I know Shaq got a piece of something, and Usher, I think, still got a piece of a couple of a team, and but actually, where you really make decisions, you got one guy. That's ridiculous, and the way that is structured, that's not going to change. So the idea of, I thought that for football as well as basketball, two sports that we drastically make up the highest percentage. We gross the revenues. We fund the schools. We fund the cities that these teams exist in. We make billionaires out of folks. But we're not those people. That's ridiculous. So I'm a firm believer in starting the independent leagues and just doing what we did before. We had the Negro League in baseball prior to integration, and had the merchandise, and people were coming out to watch the games, and it was a viable form of entertainment. People came out to watch those teams, and then they dissolved and collapsed under integration. But the reality is, if we did a basketball team, we complain, our athletes complain about how they can't get paid in school for their likeness and stuff. Go to HBCU. The league will have to start off being small, but instead of everybody wanting to go to Kansas and go to Duke, or play football and go to Notre Dame, or go to Howard.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people, they're like, well, I don't want to go to school because they don't have the fun, they don't have the facilities that UCLA has. You let 2-3 classes make their way through the HBCU circuit. They'll get the funding. You know, and build our HBCUs up. Their biggest sponsors are not us. Like the HBCUs that are supported and their funding and all, it's not from us. And so if we started pouring into, you know, you got Dr. Dre giving $50 million to USC, whatever, you know, we do that stuff.
Yeah,
you know? You know, if we started putting that stuff into those schools, really, like I remember, I don't know if I talked, you know me, see, I get to talking. You know, it would take about 10 years if we sat there and said, look, all you prospects right now who are in the 5th, 6th, 7th grade, instead of those dreams of playing in the current system, the NCAA system, I'll go to HBCUs. And if the only place you can watch those games that these premier players play in is on, I guess right now it'd be Revolt TV, Black-owned network, that's the only place you can watch the games from, the sponsorships will come, the money will come. You know, when all of a sudden the games start looking like they used to look, you know, and the competitive level, if you know all the top, the 5-star recruits are only playing in these dozen HBCUs, and the only way that you can see them is on these networks, McDonald's will come.
Yes.
Will come. And then what it does is it changes the perspective on the table. Now it's, okay, we're making these deals now. We're not trying to be a part of something. We're actually brokering it. We're actually, you know, start the league. I was one of those, if the student could get paid while he's in college, let him. You know, give all those incentives you want. Do whatever you got to do. And then, within reason. And then start that. It would take probably, you'd have to cycle out about 10 years because in the beginning, nobody would be making these big $100 million salaries. But you start cycling them through about 10 years, and you'll start seeing some real money start to flow through. And then what will happen is you have the HBCU league, whatever you want to call it. Then what happens is these other schools will want to be a part of that league. Because when they realize all the premier talent, the big name games, all the guys coming out, you can only see them over there. You'll start to get students who were going to go to Nebraska, who now want to go. You know, here they did want to go there. Now they want to go there, and as that starts to happen, the league will expand. But instead of trying to work into that system, we'll have already built it. So now we'll be incorporating them under our system instead of us constantly trying to ask what we can do under theirs.
Definitely. I completely agree with you, brother.
And for the part where do I think that going back would be a distraction? Yeah, it will. But you're just kind of, you're picking, the only way that you can, I think to their thing is if you got to get baseball on board, you got to get football players on board, you got to get performing artists on board. This is an on-code issue.
Definitely.
You can't sit there and say, okay, we're not going to play out the playoffs of the NBA, but Major League Baseball kicks off and then the NFL preseason begins.
Right.
So you're just going to, it's not going to do it. There's got to be some solidarity. There's got to be, everybody's got to hold off on touring. Everybody's got to we're shut all the book. I know we opening venues back up. Nah, I'm good. Not right now. I'm not doing that concert right now. I'm not doing that perform. I'm not dropping that album right now.
How about that?
And everybody's got to kind of be on board. So I think that if you just try to push through, unless you're trying to take the hard line, it can't be go back to playing and just turn your shirt inside out.
Definitely.
You know what I'm saying? That can't be the move, you know? So I think that if they go back to playing and just try to do a 30-second press conference after the games, that ain't going to do it.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's not me. I'm not the one forfeiting the check, but I would say I would hold off. That'll make a real statement. A season without an NBA title. Because I mean, even in the lockout year when they played that short season, some people caught up to speed to have a championship. To just say we're not having one this year, like that, because we're sticking to our guns that hard. That is a global stance.
Definitely. Now, last question. Last week, me and you attended a march, right? The basis of this march, it was put on by my brother Kevin McLean, brother Barry Axius. They done a great job of bringing everybody together. This was a healing march based on the fact that there's been 2, 3, 4 murders in our city over the past couple months. You know, and Barry,
even more now.
Now, and Barry pointed out that over the past 2 years, though, there's been a curve in violence based on a lot of the work. 0, right? So that's I like that he highlighted that, because like he was saying, people online, everybody's saying, oh, we need to stop this in Sacramento. Oh, we need to stop it. But when it was nothing going on, wasn't nobody saying, hey, ain't no murders. Good job, y'all. You know what I mean? So there are people doing work to stop this kind of stuff from happening. I'm not big on marching. I'll be the first to say, but I wanted to show my solidarity with my people because of what I talk about and what I present to the public. I wanted to be on the ground with the people, just to smell it out, just to see the atmosphere firsthand. You know what I mean? So I can have a better perspective when I speak on these things, right? But, you know, ultimately, I think about the killing of our young men, of course, because we already talked about the black on black crime thing, how that's a kind of a fabricated statement. But at the same time, I do think there needs to be a stop to some of the violence, because somebody told me, hey, look, right now our country is at war. Like, we at war with these white supremacists. How are these brothers going to be killing themselves? I said, look, man, they got their own war going on that's been going on for generations. You know what I mean? So we need to be cognizant of the fact that they dealing with something too, even though a lot of it is based in pride or territory or respect and all these kind of things. Some of these brothers, it's a simple act, meaning this is my friend right here. I've been around this guy for 15 years. My mom wasn't there. My dad wasn't there. Me and this guy got money together. We helped each other out. And then somebody killed him one day. So yeah, we in the same gang, but that's my friend that died, right? So I wanted to see it stop too. But I think we need to, you know, contextualize what we're looking at when we come at these brothers. But I think what we did was a good thing. Tell me, how do you view all of that as far as the killings in our city? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay. So first thing is the healing march, which is I think something that gets downplayed when it needs to be highlighted, because there's this misnomer nationwide that Black people only say something when a cop kills Black people, but Black people don't say anything about the violence in their own community. It's not true. Other people choose to notice or choose to speak on what they choose to speak on. But that whole event was addressing the need to heal within our community for what's going on with us in this time. That had nothing to do with law enforcement or police brutality or anything. It was strictly what was going on within our community, our denouncing of the violence that was happening, and us creating a space for those who've been affected to kind of come together and have a moment. Because we do care about what happens. And we're not cool with the crime that happens, contrary to what, you know, some folks like to say, that we just, you know, that we don't care at all. So that's when it comes to the 2 years of no youth homicides. That's not by coincidence. In that time period, a series of programs were put into place for the youth in the community. So involved in the Summer Nights of Impact, there were soft skills training classes. There were community events that people could go to. There was over 100 youth in the Sacramento area were employed during the course of these events. So they had opportunities to make money. They had opportunities to learn. They had opportunities to learn skills. They had places that they could go with people who were there to talk with them, interact with them, listen to them, all this stuff. So when you gave them resources, you gave them something to do, somewhere to go, there was no youth homicides. So now you get here and there's none of that. Now, granted that because the quarantine and all the stuff going on, so there's none of these outreaches, none of these resources, none of that. Then our violence goes up. I have a very hard time believing that there's zero correlation between those two events. You know what I'm saying? When you give young people options and opportunities to do better with people who are involved and who care and who do the work on a regular basis all across the city of Sacramento, because we had if you know the area, you know the geography. If not, just think of the entire city. You know, over there in Meadowview to Oak Park to El Paso Heights, it was going on everywhere. Wherever you were closest to, you could go to one of these places under Jackie Rose or Daryl Roberts or Barry Axius or all these different Shona McDaniels and Rolanda Wilkins and Dana Maisha and just a bunch of the 100 Black men in Sacramento who participated in just different group. Hawk Institute was doing something like, there was just all these different people that were offering resources and opportunities. Those weren't there. So then we go back to what it was like before we put those things in place. So people forget the reason why those things they put that money aside and started funding and grants and putting these programs together is because 3 years ago we were having shootings all the time. And we were having all this youth violence and we were losing too many kids. So we took proactive steps, not more policing, not militarizing the neighborhood, but by giving outlets to these young kids, resources to these young kids, and then the violence. So, like I said, I just can't believe that there's zero ties of those together. And I'm sorry if I went on my little tangent.
No. Go ahead. No, go ahead. Because, I completely understand that. And that makes sense because I would see a lot of these programs like the Summer Nights of Impact. Yeah. That was real big in like the Meadowview area. You know what I mean? And that was a continuous thing. Like he did that for a real long time. So I think hopefully the powers that be, who's ever in charge of, handing out grants or making sure different organizations have what they need, hopefully they were able to see that. Hopefully they were able to use that as like a scale to say, you know what? And we all know this about our communities. If you give a lot of these young people something to do, if you don't just talk to them, but give them something to do, give them something to shoot for, things change, man. Because a lot of the kids in our community, like I was saying, they don't have much. And then when you don't have money, you don't have resources in this gang, even though their primary goal sometimes is going about things the wrong way or living on the other side of the law. But if they provide you clothes, if they provide you a warm shelter, if they be nice to you, you know what I mean? Sometimes our kids are just looking for acceptance. And at times, the gangs in our community are right there to accept them if we don't have community leaders and all the people that you just mentioned that step up and say, you know what, let's make a change out here, Yeah,
I mean, they're still young, and put it this way, all this free time and no resources, it wouldn't led to these grown men and women looting Walmarts and 45-year-olds out there breaking into stuff. Like I know we put this thing and we put it under a microscope that 14, 15, 16, 17, 18-year-old Black teenage males are just this weird anomaly when it pertains to the expression of emotion or decision-making. But when you take away opportunities, you take away resources, outlets, there were grown men and women out here acting a fool these last 2 months. Like when they showed and they pan over, these aren't kids out there that are, the majority of these people out here acting a fool, breaking windows when all the protests and stuff, they were grown men and women. When you take those opportunities and resources away from people, those outlets away from people, people make bad decisions. And children, and they're making bad decisions too. I don't make light of anybody taking somebody's life, so please don't think I'm on that. But I think the fact is that we need to get involved with them. We can't just look at them as them over there, and we need to have something for them. I said these things go together. When you take away resources, the districts where they that's where they make their budget cuts from. Those are the schools that miraculously have the highest dropout rate and the lowest test scores. Like the areas, the communities where you take out the resources, you take out the after school programs, you take out the learning facilities, you take out all that, get higher crime and more problems. Like you don't have to be a genius to put the two together. So like I said, we don't just need to turn it to a militarized zone and try to super police them. We need to give them opportunities and outlets, and get some of this stuff under control.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Well, look, brother, I appreciate you talking to me today, man. And we've been trying to connect this interview, but I appreciate coming on the show. We're gonna have to do it again. You're always extremely insightful. And at the end of the day, bro, my whole thing is about trying to find a way to advance my race. And I'm getting to the point where, even because me and you agree on most things, right? Even if we have Black folks in our society that may not agree on everything, but we need to realize, let's take what we do agree on and move forward with that. Because once this coronavirus is over, everything dissipates, we still gonna need unity. We still gonna need finances. We still gonna need businesses, right? So I think it's important that we continue to do our part, and everybody has a part in this struggle. You don't got to start a business. You don't got to start a podcast. You don't got to have a website. You can just support a business or a podcast, or speak highly of your brother when you're in the company of other people. You know what I'm saying? Like a code of conduct we need to continue to explore that idea so we can figure out the best way to not come in one room together, but just think together. Just think the same way. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Instead of being hung up on if you're taking a pickup truck, a motorcycle, a Ferrari, or which particular freeway, as long as we can all agree that we're going west. Like sometimes that's just where you have to start. Too many people are hung up on starting off on this road, make sure we take this vehicle, make sure we go at this time of day. Let's just all agree on which direction we're going. And then you take the mode of transportation that best suits you.
There we go.
You do that through education, okay. If you do that through law, okay. If you do that through being a place of healing, maybe you're somebody, there's a lot of PTSD, a lot of trauma, a lot of unresolved things. Maybe you're the safe space for people. Maybe you're not supposed to be on the front line at the protest and march. You're supposed to be back at the ranch when folks come back and need to eat. Maybe that's your thing. Maybe you need to make sure folks are well nourished, making sure that they're dieted and they're taking care of themselves so they can be in the fight longer. They can take care of their health and they can still contribute. Maybe your job is to keep track. You scribe. You tell the stories. You tell the legend of everybody who was involved in their place and kept. Your job is to watch out for the elders. Your job is to take care of the babies. Whatever your situation, you may not be the Ferrari that flies out 200 miles an hour and the first person that needs to see something. You may be on a bike. You may be walking, pulling the wagon. You may be on foot just jogging. But as long as we can agree on the direction that we're going, that to me is crucial. Too many folks, I think we get hung up on mode of transportation and which road to start with, and we sit around arguing and nobody moves. So I think if we can just agree, this is where we're trying to get, like I told you at the beginning, assess where you are, establish where you want to go, and then implement the steps to bridge the gap between the two.
Definitely. Well, this has been another episode of the Melanated Convo podcast. Oh, tell everybody where to find your show. A Moment with Morris is the radio show that you do on Monday mornings.
AMomentWithMorris.com is the blog. Easiest thing I always tell everybody, every social media platform is at JMorrisCEO. So if you get your tweet on, if you get your Snap on, get your gram on. I'm never on it, but if you get your talk on, everything is at JMorrisCEO.
There we go, man. This has been another episode of the Melanated Convo podcast. Everybody, if you, like I said at the beginning of the show, if you have not subscribed to the YouTube page, if you're watching this on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you can be alerted when new videos drop. If you're on Facebook, please like the video, share the video. It's important that we continue to have these type of discussions. Sometimes I feel like I'll have a conversation about something and I'm repeating myself, or I feel like nobody not gonna want to hear this. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of people in our community that don't know this information. There's a lot of people in our community that need to hear certain things at certain times. So I'm happy that you have your radio show and that you've been like a voice of reason for me, and you continue to show me better than you can tell me. You know what I mean? So I definitely appreciate that. This has been another episode of the Melanated Convo podcast, y'all. We out.